Ahoy there! It is the Metal. How you doing? So I was just in the mall, and I got shocked walking up the stairs because some genius in design decided, hey, to match the aesthetic of the rest of the mall, which already starts to sound like a good idea until you get to the actual idea. Let's put an all-metal staircase, like a spiral staircase sort of, going up above a running water fountain underneath a skylight in Texas, right? So the problem is that you have running water, so the water's already bouncing everywhere. You got like droplets, particles of water bouncing off of other particles of water through the air, and as it hits the fountain itself, like the actual pool. But because it's under a skylight as well, that means you have the heat from the light of the sun going right down into the water, which will also heat up the air above the water, which will allow the humidity, like the potential humidity of that air, to hold more water. So you've got this pocket of humidity right where the stairs are, which is just asking to shock people whenever they touch the banister. Now, it's also my fault. I shouldn't have touched the banister. I should have looked at the area and noticed that this was a really dumb design, but that's not going to stop me from pointing out how dumb of a design it is. Who would do that? I don't know. I prefer the stairs. Could take the escalators. Escalators have, what are the rubber lining for the, I don't know, the equivalent of the banister, the arm railing. So the idea that you'd get shocked on an escalator, possible because there's plenty of metal, but it's also far away from a fountain. But I like the stairs. I like the exercise of going up and down stairs. And I kind of go to the mall mostly to walk around and blow time, because I'm kind of a mall rat, as I've probably pointed out in the past. And yeah, I just, first off, I just wanted to complain about that. I thought it was really stupid, and other people should know. On top of that, I guess one of the things I want to talk about was comic writing, since I've been doing a lot of that lately, and what it's like to work with an artist. Because I think a lot of people, especially newer artists, not that I'm terribly experienced by any reasonable measure, but I know what I'm doing. A lot of newer artists don't know the process of working with somebody else who is writing. So I've been having to deal with this with quite a few people, and I did some research first before even working with another artist, so I had an idea of what I was doing, as well as the fact that some of it just kind of clicked naturally if you've ever planned projects with other people before, which I've done quite a bit. So obviously you start with writing a script. Writing the script is actually probably the easiest part of the entire process. It takes, I wouldn't even say the least amount of mental effort, because you really, really need to be detailed when you go into this, your scripting work. You got to give as much information as possible, probably more information than you actually plan on going into the panel, which we'll come up to another point later that I've had to explain, especially to people who aren't used to working off of other people's information. But it takes the least amount of time out of any, like, the major portions of the comic making process is writing the script. I could sit down, basic script. What I like to do when I'm writing it is just do like a 2.5 pass, write it, then go back over it, make sure everything's good, like actually the way I mean it to be. Then go back over it again and make sure like the half passes that the grammar and stuff is sufficient. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be sufficient. Except that the dialogue, you should put the dialogue in the script. That needs to be exactly grammatically how you want it to be, even if you're going to be the person doing the lettering, because it's just a habit that you need to do. But then I'll go over and give it another pass or two, or maybe even three, when I go back to the script when I'm finally working with somebody else. You just don't really need to give it too many passes when you're storing a script to be used later. Then, when you finally get to the artist, this is where, because if you're going to be the writer and you're working with an artist, it's just like a two-man team. You're probably also going to be the editor as the writer, which means you're going to be the person that they're constantly sending the art to when you have to approve stuff. So the first stage is that they need to send you thumbnails. So hopefully you describe the layout adequately, or if they're not a new artist, maybe you didn't do panel by panel scripting. I like to do both. I do like a full page synopsis of everything that's going to be on there. And then I like to have the panels like an optional layout for people to work off of if they don't want that full control. But some people want the control. And some artists are just better at making things look good and figuring out the flow of the page than you are just writing it. But they have to give you the thumbnails. Then you approve those. Then they have to give you the pencils of the actual like detail work. Then you approve those. Then they have to give you the inks. Then you approve those. They might color it. Depends if you're working black and white or color. And then that's when I get it back and have to do the lettering. Which, honestly, from an editorial perspective, lettering is quicker than writing. I can letter fast, but I would say it still takes more effort than writing because you have to make it look nice, right? You can't just slap things on a page. And that's pretty much the process. But to the point I was going to get back to before is you want more detail in your script than the artist is actually going to use. And I need to come up with a way. I'm thinking of separating the panels into the focus of the panel and then additional details, because I'm constantly having to re-explain myself. So this is obviously a problem on my part, knowing that I work mostly with new artists. And that's something I need to fix, not them. But I need to separate it because they're complaining there's too much stuff in this panel. And I'm like, well, no, there's not. You don't have to include everything in there in the panel. And I try to word it in a way that it already looks like it cuts up what the focus of the page is. And anything that's just like, here's additional details that you could use for the background if there's enough room. It's not necessary, but it's good to have this information now so you can think and plan ahead of things coming in the rest of the script. But then I have to remember, it's like, oh, this person is new to working in comics, so they just see my long paragraph, and even if I think it's worded well, they're like, I have to try to fit all this into the panel because that's what's written in the panel information, which is my bad. A more experienced artist would know that. They'd be like, okay, obviously the stuff at the beginning of this paragraph is the important thing, and as it trickles down, all this stuff that's clearly in the background is bonus information. Some panels, you won't even use a background, because you only need to establish the background every so often, depending on if there's something important in the background, if your characters are moving and the background changes. But that's pretty much just the gist of what the process of making a comic. I haven't talked about that before. I talk about making comics a lot, so I figured I might as well just go about it. And yeah, I don't know, the traffic's heavy. I should probably just stop talking. It's already like 10 minutes. I'm the Metal. I'll catch you later. Bye.